From rainforest destruction in Malaysia to wildlife preservation in Canada. State of the Natural World, beginning Monday, May 25th at 10 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. It's your world.
Brought to you in part by Lexus Automobiles.
The early Indian hunters called them Caribou, the ones who paw the ground in search of food. Eskimos and Indians who still depend on them today know them as tutu or vidsai. We call them caribou, barren ground caribou. Never since the buffalo disappeared from the prairies has North America known a wildlife spectacle to equal them. They're tireless, as primitive looking as an animated cave painting. They're driven by forces as ancient and unpredictable as the ebb and flow of the ice caps themselves. The Ogilvie Mountains in the Yukon Territory of Canada. This is where this herd, named after the Yukon's Porcupine River, has spent the winter. Now in late April, it begins to move out northwards. It's not a mass movement with thousands of caribou packing together to begin the long journey, but it is a mass movement in the sense that all over the Ogilvies, little parties feel the urge to travel at exactly the same time. These small parties are like tributary streams that will eventually join together to become a huge river of animals. The drama takes place along the border between Canada's Yukon Territory and Alaska. The course taken by the porcupine herd varies each year, but its purpose and destination is always the same: to reach the rich calving and feeding grounds over 500 miles north beside the Arctic Ocean. A head-down, purposeful gait of caribou that know they've a long, long way to go. All these travelers have one thing in common besides the compulsion to keep moving. They're all cows. The bulls will follow 2 weeks later. Don't be misled by their antlers. Caribou are the only species of deer in which both sexes grow horns. The sandhill cranes are moving north to have their young also. Each one of the adult cows is carrying a calf. Each one knows that it must reach the traditional calving grounds by early June, and has barely a month in which to make it. A nervous leap. Caribou, when startled, do it all along the trail. The hooves, spread in takeoff, possibly leave a strong scent behind for those following. This yearling needs no such signposts. She'll stick close to her mother until the new calf is born. Calving is one of the forces that drives the herd north. The other is the need to find the richest possible food that will prepare them to withstand yet another winter. To fuel them on their journey, the cows seek out the first green shoots. The snow geese have the same final destination as the caribou. For them, the journey is far quicker and easier. The barren ground caribou feels as much at home in the mountains as on the tundra. Climbing 4,000 to 5,000 feet means nothing to them. The reward for their effort is that the wind has often swept the snow off the high ridges, or else packed it down for easier traveling. There are fewer predators on the high ground. It's on the flat, open spaces of the valleys that the wolf packs launch their attack. A caribou will sometimes escape from one wolf, but not from two. The wolf kills up to 18 caribou a year. In the past, the relationship has worked perfectly well. The wolf helps to cull the old, the weak, and the sick. But now, with human expansion threatening even here, it may no longer be possible to let the old equation work itself out. Some argue that wolf numbers may have to be kept in check if caribou trails are to be as numerous in the snow. The hammer blows of spring are beginning to smash the river ice into rectangular blocks. When the thaw is just beginning, these small rivers are still fairly easy to cross. By early May, traveling 25 miles a day, the cow parties have covered 250 miles. Ahead now lies their first major obstacle. The porcupine herd faces the frozen river from which it takes its name, the Porcupine River. When breakup comes to these Arctic rivers, it could all happen in an hour. 1 minute, the half-mile wide porcupine is a solid sheet of ice. The next is a juddering, jostling jam of ice blocks, some the size of a 3-ton truck. The caribou don't, or maybe can't, wait. They're magnificent swimmers. The hollow hairs of their coats not only protect them against temperatures that would kill a man within minutes, but help to keep them afloat. Their large splayed hooves, so effective as snowshoes, now act as paddles. But nothing can protect them against the ice. Sometimes an individual manages to clamber out for a brief rest. These hornless yearlings are experiencing the ice crossings for the first time. Many will be crushed or die of exhaustion. The breakup is intermittent, so that every now and then a party of swimmers is lucky to strike a comparatively ice-free crossing. But not this swimmer. You'd think they'd wait. The ice will all have gone in a few days, sweeping down the Porcupine to join the Yukon River on a 1,000-mile journey to the sea. The time clock of the unborn calves within these animals compels them to force themselves in a state of total exhaustion to struggle up the steep northern bank. Few, either strength or sense of purpose runs out. An unborn calf dies with her. Hundreds of young and old will perish on the journey, but then hundreds more will be born to replace them. All that matters is that the vast majority survive to keep the herd up to strength. North of the Porcupine River, the trees start to thin out and grow smaller. This is the last of the northern forest, the taiga, the Russian word that means little sticks. Soon the caribou will enter the bare, near-desert world of the Arctic tundra. Though their route varies in detail each year, caribou have a marvelous sense of direction. They can find their way unerringly across vast white spaces where a man would walk in circles without a compass. From their behavior, you'd never guess that they're close relatives of the European reindeer. Reindeer can be domesticated and never make these vast migrations. Even a caribou's snowshoe hooves can't cope with the deep, soft snow of spring. A thaw will come quickly now, and with it, other signs of spring on the tundra. A Lapland longspur. The willow ptarmigan are already breeding. The cock keeps his conspicuous winter plumage long after his hen has turned to nesting drab. The cock's snow-white plumage distracts predators away from the nest. Not that he considers the caribou any threat. Even on the hilltops, the snow is clearing fast. All this meltwater has to go somewhere, and the speed of the Arctic thaw, which can all happen within days, presents the next threat to the porcupine herd. Once the thaw really sets in, a big river can rise 10 feet in a few hours. By the end of the northern half of their journey, the herd will have crossed many major rivers. Most will prove no real problem to them, but some will take their toll in lives. This is one of them. The same urge that drove them into the crashing ice blocks of the Porcupine now forces them to face rapids which will certainly disappear within a few hours when the river falls again. The penalty for their haste is death.
We will return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel. Their day-to-day life is a struggle, and tomorrow's meal is far from guaranteed. The Whale Hunters of La Malera on Disappearing World, Tuesday at 10 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
Every sports sedan is supposed to do well in the fast lane. But what about these lanes? At Lexus, we've achieved extremely tight tolerances between all major body panels. So not only does the ES300 look like it's put together well, it actually is put together well.
No matter which kind of bandage you use, if you want those cuts to heal faster, use Neosporin every time you bandage. Testing shows Neosporin helps cuts heal faster, 4 days faster than a bandage alone, and it helps prevent infection. So whenever you use a bandage, use Neosporin. Together, they make it better, faster. And for fast healing plus pain relief, now there's maximum strength Neosporin Plus.
It's only natural that children look to their parents for answers. So to help you explain why some things that may be fine for adults aren't right for children, Anheuser-Busch offers Family Talk, free advice from professionals to use with your kids while they're still learning to be grown up. And their favorite teacher is you. Let's stop underage drinking before it starts.
If you're using a credit card to get a cash advance, you're probably getting soaked.
Because ordinary cards charge you interest. Right from day one, which is why you should use the Discover card. Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll give you cash, interest-free. So you can avoid taking a bath. It pays to Discover.
See television's most comprehensive look at the environmental issues facing us today. State of the Natural World, beginning Monday, May 25th at 10 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. It's your world.
Expect the very best from Sunnyland. Archaeology tours of Morocco and Egypt, ecology tours of Venezuela and Costa Rica, cultural cruises in Russia and the Ukraine, and adventure travel in Eastern Europe.
Our ecology tours of Costa Rica are known to be the best. Experience the beauty of the rainforest and the diversity of life in national parks. Discover the splendor of the world we live in. For a free brochure, call 1-800-783-7839.
To unlock your body's potential, we proudly offer Soloflex. 32 old-fashioned iron-pumping exercises, each correct in form and balance. All on a simple machine that fits in the corner of your home. For a free brochure, call anytime.
We now return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
The long Arctic days can be surprisingly warm, though no one, let alone a caribou mother, should rely on that. 90% of all the calves are born within 5 days of each other. The first calves are often dropped before their mothers reach the main calving grounds. This gives predators a chance. The fox is hoping for a sickly or stillborn infant. With these early calves, the cows are torn between motherhood and moving on. Some calves inevitably get separated and left behind. No cow will accept a calf other than its own. Once a calf loses its mother, it's doomed. The youngster on the left has temporarily lost its own mother and is soon sent away. This hours-old calf weighed about 13 pounds at birth. On milk rich in butterfat, it will double its weight within 10 days. A calf can walk within an hour of being born, and within 3 or 4 hours it can keep up with its mother. Though the calf will start grazing on its second day of life, its mother will continue to nurse it for a long time, even during the return journey to the wintering grounds in the autumn. The tundra is a wet, inhospitable place to begin life. The caribou calf isn't born in a warm burrow like a parka squirrel. Up to 40% of the calves born each spring never survive to be yearlings. In exceptionally bad years, the death rate can rise to 90%. The location of the main calving grounds varies from season to season. Some years they calve in the Yukon in Canada, but next year they may have their young over the U.S. border in Alaska. No one can tell why they choose these particular spots to drop their calves. Often they seem to pick bleak, exposed hillsides instead of the nearby valleys where the food plants are apparently more enticing. But then caribou are mysterious animals, as unpredictable as the Northland in which they live. Caribou, it has been said, are the Northland, or anyway, its wild spirit. Four or 5 days after their calves are born, the cows shed their antlers. This mother, watching her growing youngster flex his muscles, has already lost hers. The treacherous weather of the tundra accounts for a good many young caribou. Out of a blue sky can suddenly come a rainstorm or even a squall of wet, clinging snow. Newborn calves caught on exposed slopes by these spring storms fall easy victims to pneumonia. Usually caribou make the most attentive mothers, but the presence of a hunting wolverine and her natural urge to keep moving snaps her maternal ties with a sick calf. The cow is apprehensive, and with good reason. The wolverine, or glutton, the largest of the weasel family, has the reputation of being completely fearless. Perhaps the maternal bond is already weakened because she senses the sick calf is unlikely to survive. As she trots away up the slope, the wolverine is ready to move in. There's only about another 100 miles to go to their final objective. There are no major obstacles to be crossed now, just areas of soft snow, some of which will lie around here all summer. All these tributary herds of caribou are about to flow together into one great river of animals. The spring flowers and shoots are one of the magnets that draw them all this way. The most nutritious food of all awaits the herds here, towards the end of the northward journey. Now there's another dramatic change in the migration. The bulls are coming. The bulls, who started out 2 weeks after the cows, come swinging in from the east across the Canadian border to join the cows. The former slow, purposeful drift is gradually replaced by a feeling of nervous activity. Calves still stop to practice digging for food and to play on patches of snow, but they're not allowed to linger for very long. The porcupine herd's second objective of the northward trek is nearly in sight. Mountains all lie behind now, as over 100,000 members of the herd, young, old, bulls and cows, together for the first time, turn westward along the coastline towards the Arctic Ocean. Although they're never going to stand still long enough to relax at their journey's end, at least they've arrived.
We will return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
This portion of Discovery is sponsored in part by Neosporin. It makes it better faster.
No matter which kind of bandage you use, if you want those cuts to heal faster, use Neosporin every time you bandage. Testing shows Neosporin helps cuts heal faster, 4 days faster than a bandage alone, and it helps prevent infection. So whenever you use a bandage, use Neosporin. Together, they make it better, faster. And for fast healing plus pain relief, now there's maximum strength Neosporin Plus.
The power of gold is the power to clean. New power line from Eureka. 8 big amps of power. 8 amps to clean down here, clear through to the dirt. Attachments on board to clean anywhere, here, there. And what it picks up, it keeps here. Yes, the power of gold is the power to clean. Great power, great price. New power line from Eureka.
You were here. She has the traveler's checks here. Nah, that's no good. But this is. New American Express traveler's checks for 2. The first checks either of you can use. Don't leave home without them.
If you're trying to decide how to paint your house, just ask a professional painter how he might paint his house. With Sherwin-Williams, there's only one paint that's good, and there's only one place you can get it. The pros know. Ask Sherwin-Williams.
Each year, corporate America spends over $10 billion on overnight shipping. Yet according to a report in the Wall Street Journal, $3 billion of that is wasted. If you find that kind of inefficiency alarming, call UPS. We can save you up to 40% on overnight deliveries and help prevent your profits from going up in smoke. UPS. We run the tightest ship in the shipping business.
Theirs was a culture rich in tradition and spirit, living freely on a land that they call their own. Explore the history of a people long forgotten, the greatness of their past, and the uncertainty of their future, as the Discovery Channel proudly presents Roger Kennedy's Rediscovering America, Indians Among Us, Thursday at 9 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. Brought to you in part by Jeep, maker of the new Jeep Grand Cherokee.
It all began with Discovery, a television channel dedicated to exploring the wonders of the world we share. And that discovery has now led to learning, the art, the science, the curious, the clever, the classics, the joy of learning, the joy of the Learning Channel, the new cable channel where you come to know. Watch the Learning Channel in the spirit of discovery.
What do you think?
I'll take the Sony.
Ask your cable company for the Learning Channel. It's just good thinking.
We now return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
Nowhere, except in Africa, on the plains of the Serengeti, can you see such a coming together of large wild animals. Scientists call it the aggregation. Spread out across the tundra are up to 100,000 caribou of the porcupine herd. No one can exactly explain the aggregation. Sometimes the whole herd packs densely together, but bunched or spread out, even when not disturbed, they're perpetually on the move. The aggregation area cannot truly be described as a journey's end. Caribou keep moving, moving every second of 24-hour Arctic daylight. Sometimes an irritant larger than a mosquito spooks them. Grizzly bears are bad news for everyone. They can be very aggressive and totally unpredictable. This grizzly is only prospecting for anything edible he can find along the edge of a stream. But his presence is enough to make caribou with calves feel uneasy. With caribou, restlessness is contagious. When a grizzly walks right past the herd, it's too much. A combination of bear and biting flies triggers off another panic. By the end of July, all that is left of the aggregation is a network of trails etched deep into the tundra, trails that have been used for hundreds of years. Scars never heal on the fragile face of the Arctic. The porcupine herd has moved eastwards down the coast and will soon turn south ahead of winter. The aggregation breaks up into smaller herds, fans out. Part of it moves through the mountain passes into Canada once more. Again, it's never a simple, clear-cut movement, and it's different each year. The caribou spend the final weeks of summer feeding and putting on weight for winter. The bulls are now in their full glory. So is the red and gold autumn tundra. If the caribou hadn't taken full advantage of the summer feeding, they'd never be in condition to survive a winter whose temperatures will reach 60 below zero. Willow ptarmigan are changing back to plumage that will soon match the snows, feeding while they can on the leaves and berries. Autumn in these parts is like one of those last chance filling stations before you face a long stretch of desert road. Fail to take advantage of its offerings, and you may die. The grizzly knows this. It will den up when the snow comes and pass the winter in semi-hibernation. These cubs will need a rich layer of fat if they're to emerge fit and vigorous in the spring. The bull moose will remain active throughout the long winter, feeding on scrub willow and birch above the snow. Food will never be as plentiful or as accessible as it is now. Hanging from his antlers in shreds is the last of the protective membrane called velvet. To clear the velvet from his antlers, the caribou bull will look for a bush and thrash his rack of antlers against it. Bush thrashing serves two purposes. It cleans the remains of the velvet from the new antlers, which the bull grows afresh after shedding each year, and stimulates his body to reach breeding pitch for the rut which lies ahead. This bull is probably too young to breed, but it's the young bulls who go through the motions of the breeding ritual first of all. The old bulls, sure of their prowess, waste little energy on unnecessary demonstrations. They're saving their strength for the real thing. These are the adult bulls, whose rutting combats will shortly decide whose blood is to dominate future generations of the porcupine herd. One more river on the long road south to the wintering grounds of the Ogilvy Mountains. The rivers now are comparatively friendly. No swollen spring floods. But other dangers come with the fall. On their journey south, they at last come again to the Porcupine River. There is no ice this time. Instead, there is an Indian settlement called Old Crow. The herd approaches the river crossing, quite typically led by an adult cow. Among deer, and caribou belong to the deer family, the females are usually the most aware and cautious. The porcupine herd has crossed the river round about that area for as long as Indian tribal memory can recall. And herein lies a threat to the caribou, a threat they seem unable to appreciate and avoid. Whether danger is present or not, it makes no difference to the instincts of the young bulls. While the herd hesitates on the bank, they try out their immature antlers in adolescent imitations of the real battles their seniors will shortly fight. The mature bulls, with their lordly antler racks, take no notice. For days now, the fragmented porcupine herd will be crossing the river in small groups like this. Many will reach the southern bank without hint of danger. Other groups will not be so lucky. An outboard motor is not a traditionally Indian sound. Yet Dick Newcon is a traditional Indian hunter. His people, along with the Eskimos of other Arctic regions, have hunted caribou ever since their ancestors first crossed the vanished land bridge from Asia. Caribou are to them what the buffalo was to the Plains Indians, a provider of meat, clothing, and in the old days, homes and weapons. Though they depend on the caribou, the deer have often failed them by avoiding mountain passes and river crossings that the native hunters have come to rely on. In those years, Eskimo and Indian villages have sometimes starved to death. The Indians of Old Crow settlement on the Porcupine River still rely on the coming of the caribou. Dick Newcon's family and dependents will need more than 20 caribou to provide for their needs for the year. Dick Newcon is a hunter of the old school, brought up to shoot only what he needs. He'll always try to pick out the bulls, not only because that is the best way to protect the breeding stock, but also because the bulls carry the most meat and fat. Fat is a vital commodity when you live in a frozen world. In Old Crow Village, the racks of caribou meat that Dick Newcon and his fellow hunters have harvested hang drying in the autumn sun. More meat will be smoked and later on frozen. There are few restrictions on Eskimo and Indian hunting. The American and Canadian governments recognize that the caribou is the mainspring of their native people's way of life. But sad and inevitable events have overtaken these proud, independent peoples. Where they once hunted with bow and arrow, now they have the repeating rifle. Where once they followed caribou on dog sled and snowshoe, they now use motorized snowmobiles. Their attitude to the caribou remains, understandably, what it always has been. Get the meat while you can. The question now must be, can the caribou withstand this sort of modern hunting pressure by ancient people? Even more urgent, can these people keep their traditional way of life when seduced by a more recent culture? In finding a solution, the caribou may be the loser.
We will return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
Brought to you in part by Rockports, all-terrain vehicles for your feet.
Clear. Test area.
Tests prove Rockport dress shoes absorb shock significantly better than ordinary dress shoes. Rockport, you should be in our shoes.
What's got into that cat?
Friskies. Woo! What in the world? Well, I never. Oh, yes, I have. Friskies.
What's got into that cat?
Great tasting Friskies, filled with energy-producing nutrients to bring out the frisky in your cat.
What's got into that cat?
Friskies.
You were here. He has the traveler's checks here. That is a problem. Well, was. Now there's American Express traveler's checks for 2. The first checks either of you can use. Don't leave home without them.
The art of brewing is about control. Controlling the process, the quality of the ingredients.
Every little detail.
That's how we bring you a great beer.
Well, once it leaves here,
You're the one in control.
we want you to enjoy our beer.
at a ball game, a barbecue.
At dinner with the family.
After work with friends.
But please, drink responsibly. Remember, friends know when to say when.
We'd all appreciate it.
A reminder from the people who bring you Budweiser.
Bifocals? I'm gonna look just like my father. My grandfather. Wait, nobody'll notice the lines if I do some cool frames. Or something. This is not working.
For those who refuse to be seen in bifocals, we offer the perfect disguise. Verilux no-line bifocals. The vision you need, the look you want, none of the lines. Call for a Verilux professional near you.
They have changed little since the time of the dinosaurs, yet they remain masters of their environment today. You'll find them on the remote island of the Komodo dragon, hidden in the desert den of the rattlesnake, or even in your own backyard. Uncover their secrets and learn their surprising stories as Discovery presents Cold-Blooded Creatures, all week at 7 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
Africa. See it come alive on a vacation where you'll come face to face with an unspoiled world of heart-stopping excitement. All you've ever dreamed, all you've ever wanted from a vacation is here, within reach. Heed the call of Africa. For a free brochure, call 1-800-2-SAFARI.
Introducing Nordic Flex Gold, the newest idea in strength training that is 5 ways better than Soloflex. Nordic Flex Gold has linear motion to better simulate free weights. Nordic Flex Gold has isokinetic resistance to better match your natural strength curve. Nordic Flex Gold is faster to use than Soloflex. Nordic Flex Gold has electronics to monitor your performance. And best of all, Nordic Flex Gold costs 1/3 less. Call now to order your Nordic Flex Gold.
We now return to the natural world on the Discovery Channel.
In every group that crosses, there are the weaklings and the casualties. Wolves, wolverines, sickness, and natural obstacles weed them out, one by one. In this party, there's a young bull with a broken leg. In another, it's an adult bull who's already been mauled by wolves. Nature finds a way of eliminating such casualties. The sow has cubs and sees the wounded bull as easy meat. Normally, a bear would have difficulty in taking a bull in the pride of his strength. fight was over in 7 minutes. But the grizzly and her cubs returned to feed on the 350 pounds of caribou meat for the next 5 days. Unimpressed and untroubled by the disasters which overtake their companions, later parties of the porcupine herd continue to make the river crossing and press on southward. Though still north of the Arctic Circle, they're back amongst the trees now. The tundra is left far behind. Ahead lie the wintering grounds in the Ogilvy Mountains. So far, their long, long trek has been dominated by the needs of the cows. Now, very soon, the time of the bulls is coming. Like everything else on the caribou's long march to the Arctic Ocean and back again, the rut is taken literally in their stride. The herd never stops long in one place to feed, give birth, or mate. But with rutting, just as with giving birth, they use the same general area year after year. It's south of the Porcupine River before they reach the mountains again. There the bulls start to work up their ardor by thrashing the bushes with their antlers. They don't control whole harems of females. Instead, they chase around seeking out any cow who is in season. Rival bulls passing each other display their antlers as a threat. The cows are only in season for 4 or 5 days, so the bulls can't afford to waste any opportunities. Incidentally, this explains why all the calves are born 8 months later, within 4 or 5 days of each other. The tension among the bulls slowly increases. Mature bulls repeatedly turn their heads to show off their white manes to the cows. Young bulls who haven't a hope of mating success this season go through the rituals of courtship combat. Tension builds up to such an extent that it takes very little to spook the entire herd. The sudden appearance of a grizzly is often enough to start a stampede. The grizzly, going about the urgent business of building up fat for the winter, may not even be responsible for the panic. It may simply be caused by the nervous behavior of a cow caribou being pursued too ardently by a bull. This head-high threat posture is the one the bulls adopt when they are pursuing a cow who's in season. will often abandon courtship momentarily to chase off a passing rival. Fights between mature breeding bulls are not just ritual posturing. Caribou battles are real. The object of the encounter always seems to be to twist and force the opponent off his balance. Antler wounds are common, and occasionally a bull dies in combat. Strangely enough, the loser never seems to get driven away from the herd. Quite often, a third bull takes advantage of the contestants' preoccupation. For the bulls, the rut is an extremely exhausting time, especially as they have little or no time for feeding. The loser may move off to the fringe of the group, but he's likely to start chasing a female or fighting another bull almost immediately. By the end of October, the rut is nearly over. Winter has traveled southward faster than the caribou, and now it's overtaking them. The grizzlies dig for roots. Soon they will be excavating dens in which to escape the worst of the coming cold. The caribou are moving back now into the wintering grounds of Canada's Ogilvy Mountains. The last rivers they cross already have that viscous look of water that is nearly turning to ice. Cold down to minus 60 degrees doesn't trouble them. Those autumn coats of long, brittle guard hairs and dense underfur protect them completely. The long trek of the porcupine herd is apparently nearly over. And yet it's never over. Even when they reach the mountains, they'll keep moving all winter long until it's time to start north again. It seems a crazy, wasteful system, yet it's worked for thousands upon thousands of years. Winter fills the passes. The Indian didn't christen this animal Exalibou, the one who paws the ground for food, without good reason. Strong as a result of the rich feeding they found on the borders of the Arctic Ocean, the barren ground caribou survive the winter. The force that drives the herd on its journey of around 2,000 miles is the need to find the best possible feeding all year round. That's about as far as anyone understands the motivation of an animal as wild and mysterious as the empty spaces of the barren lands. Empty spaces are what the remaining herds of caribou need to survive. Yet even here in Alaska and Arctic Canada, those empty spaces are threatened. Already there's the Alaska pipeline. There are planned networks of roads. A highway and a gas pipeline through the winter range of the porcupine herd is likely in the near future. The caribou is too wild to adapt to such man-made intrusions. When the Indians wished to drive caribou for hunting, they laid a trail of logs on the ground, knowing the caribou would not cross them. Now, when engineers provide caribou with underpasses and bridges at roads and pipelines, the herds turn aside and will not cross those. Without their freedom to migrate, they are lost. The question must now be seriously asked. For the barren caribou is the end of their endless journey tragically in sight.
Tonight at 10, travel to London and Holland on a world away. But first, find out how zoos are changing to keep up with the times. Jack Hanna hosts Zoo Life next on Discovery Showcase.
Portion of Discovery is sponsored in part by UPS, guaranteed overnight delivery.
A mistake was made. Okay, we forgot. We over...